beyond the skies. You and I, we're breaking bounds on Baobab.
Hi, God. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are going to go ahead and get started. We have an exciting program for you. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen. My name is Elizabeth Macdonald. I am a career coach with the career readiness coach with the MasterCard Foundation, helping people with resumes and helping people with their career readiness. So I'm just so happy to be here. Great. Today, our theme is understanding how to negotiate your value, and that's our theme for today. We're very excited to have two guests. We have Angela Nantambi, and we have Dorcas. I don't want to mispronounce her last name. Nakachwa was here with us. I hope you can all see my screen. If you could put into chat, have you ever negotiated your worth, your salary, your benefits, your raise, your position in a job? Put yes or no in the chat. Put yes or no in the chat. Give us a sense. We want to get a sense. No, we get a sense of where you're at and why you have come today to join us for this really important talk. Oh, good. I'm seeing lots of yeses. I'm seeing lots of yeses. Good. Wow. You guys, that's wonderful. I'm seeing lots of yeses. That's wonderful. Would like to learn. Not an easy thing to do, and that's why we've chosen this topic. Right? Because it's a really important thing. Fabulous. Thank you, guys. My next question is if yes, were you successful? Yes or no? Were you successful? Oh, it's hard. It's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to do. How to negotiate your salary. Mixed results. Some yes, some no. Not easy. Not easy. Somewhat successful. I know it's a range. Sorry about that. Not easy. Well, hopefully after today's session, you'll have some better tips and strategies for how to be more successful in the future. My last question, any of you here contemplating negotiating your worth related to your current role? Like, is this a burning issue for you where you're like, oh my gosh, this issue's coming up and I need to negotiate? I'm getting yes, yes. Oh my gosh. All right. I know it's an important topic. It's a really, oh, wow, Patricia, next week. All right. I hope this is helpful for you. Oh my gosh. So many. So many. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, let me share with you our agenda. Thank you guys so much. First, a little bit of housekeeping. We have two guest panelists. I'm so excited because it's not often that you get to hear from people who actually did this and were successful and learn from them of what they did. So we're so excited to have two guest panelists. We're going to talk in general about how common is it. We're going to talk about cultural differences across different countries and recommendations for successful negotiation. Voices from the field from two people, and then give you a chance to ask them some questions. Some group rules: mute yourself when you're not speaking. If at the end, if you want to participate, you can raise your hand or use chat or your emojis. Don't hesitate to ask questions. You can use the question and answer feature or the chat. We'll take note of it and answer your questions during the Q&A part. So we have two guest speakers. We have two guests today. We have Dorcas Nakachua. She is an aerospace engineer with 5 years of experience working in the aerospace industry as an analyst and a design engineer. And she worked for two of the top aerospace companies in Canada. In terms of her education, she has a master's degree in aerospace engineering from McGill University in aerospace engineering, in Canada, and a bachelor's of science in mechanical engineering from Ishesi University in Ghana. Good. She's also co-founder of Innogen, an enterprise that is supporting girls and women in STEM. So welcome, welcome, Dorcas. Thank you so much for joining us today. Our other guest speaker is Angela Nantambi, who's also our master behind the scenes, helping put this whole thing together. Welcome, Angela. She has 5 years of experience in communication and marketing analytics, specializing in edtech and nonprofit sectors. She has a master's in global management from the Thunderbird School of Global Management, where she was a Share Fellow, gaining valuable executive mentorship and practical learning experiences, including a global consulting project in Indonesia. Her roles as a program coordinator at Baobab and a marketing operations associate at Turaco and an internal audit intern at Western Union gave her the chance to really develop and demonstrate her creativity, her strategic problem solving skills, and her ability to navigate complex multicultural environments. Um, she's managed alumni engagement strategies. She's proficient in a great variety of different computer skills and has awards for excellence in social innovation and entrepreneurship. Welcome, welcome, Angela. That's wonderful. All righty. So we're going to hear from both of them. They both have very different stories, but very similar success factors. So we're really excited to have you share them. All right, we're going to kind of lay an overview of like how common is salary negotiation. In the US, the majority of employers see it as a normal part of the hiring process. They expect you to negotiate. They give you kind of their bottom line salary that they have, and they want you to negotiate higher. Recently, 50% of and 50% of people negotiate. Recruiters report that more and more candidates are initiating salary negotiations. Women tend to be less likely to negotiate than men. In one study, 8 times as many men negotiated their salaries as women. So I'm curious if you can put in chat, number one, in your country, do employers see it as a normal part of the hiring process? So you can put the number 1, 2, and 3 for your answers. Number 2, is it true in your country that that it's normal for people to negotiate their salaries? And number 3, in your country, are women slightly less likely to negotiate salaries? Um, Put in chat what you think. Is this true in your country? So here's a very strong US perspective. So let me see, hold on, there we go. Number 1, they don't give you the opportunity. Thank you, Joy. True, false, false. All righty. Oh my God, so Joy, women do negotiate. Very good. Let me see our other messages. No, 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 no. It's for all 3. False, false, true. I tell you, when I lived in Africa, the women, the women business owners were the best negotiators I've ever met in my life. So for you guys who are saying number 3 false, I hear you there. Very, 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 very interesting. All right, and we have new ones. Good. Madi. Good. Very interesting. Depends on the level, I know, and a lot of this can really depend on the industry and the role. Thank you guys so much. Depends on the level. Wow, thank you guys so much for sharing. So interesting. So let's talk about the benefits of negotiating salary and benefits, right? So we find in the US, people who negotiate can increase their salary by 5 to 10%, sometimes as high as 20%. they find that women who consistently negotiate throughout their career can increase their cumulative earnings by $1 million. And for the benefits, there are a lot of there, you don't have to negotiate just salary. You can negotiate your benefits like stock options, retirement plans, health insurance, hybrid work, and this can represent a significant portion of one's compensation. So all of this is kind of a U.S. perspective, looking at some cultural differences. So they find there are differences. In the United States, it's expected. Each side has a limit. They hope to find common ground. The HR will give you the lowest offer. You come in at a higher level and you try to come to an agreement. They say that in Germany, negotiations are practical. They're based on objective qualifications rather than feeling. China, there's respect for qualifications. India, negotiations may have a lot of back and forth. So it may be very different for different cultures. Some cultural factors that may influence the negotiation can be communication styles. If people are indirect and polite versus direct and assertive. The attitude negotiation in some cultures, it's seen as being expected. In others, it's seen as being rude and impolite. Seniority, education, and performance may also be factors. I thought this was interesting, and I'm sharing this with you. So research findings on communication styles. So looking at how people give negative feedback. And you guys, as I present this, feel free to, thank you so much. So feel free to put some comments in chat. So looking at, right, politeness in African countries can hinder your negotiation abilities because politeness can be seen as a really important issue, right? The attitudes toward negotiation. I'm sharing this because salary negotiation can be seen as kind of a negative, challenging conversation. And so I thought putting up here our research findings on communication styles related to negative feedback. And here we have countries on a scale of, I'm going to pull up my pen. Oh, sorry, hold on. I'm going to pull up my pen. So here we can have direct negative feedback where people, they're okay giving feedback, negative feedback directly. US is right in the middle, right? And you can see like Germany, the Netherlands, Denmark, France, right? They're fine. If they have to give you negative feedback, they're fine giving it more directly. The indirect negative feedback where they may hedge a little and say, well, you did a good job on this, but you might want to improve on this. Japan is understandably one of the Japan, Thailand, Indonesia, they're some of the most indirect. Kenya and Ghana. Would you guys agree that Kenya and Ghana are more in the range of the more indirect to our um, to negative feedback? And so these countries here, it means that it may be a little bit more challenging to find an effective strategy for negotiating your salary or negotiating your worth. You may have to be a little bit more strategic in how you do it, right? And we have some interesting comments in chat. I know people may be afraid they're fired. So there are lots of differences. So some recommendations for successful negotiation. There are several factors: geographic location, years of experience, managerial experience, a number of years experience supervising direct reports, education level, career level, skills, and licenses and certifications. So these are some factors that may influence how you negotiate your worth. Can you put in chat which of these factors do you think are most important, most significant, carry the most weight in negotiating your worth? And thank you, Rhodes. I know her study did not include other African countries. I'm so sorry. Those were the only two that were noted there. Thank you for the feedback at confirmation about Ghana. Good. Thank you guys so much. 1, 2, and 5. Skills, years of experience, years of experience. Yep. So rates of unemployment can make the negotiation a little scarier because you know there are so many people applying for jobs. Good skills, managerial experience, years of experience, 4, 7. Great. So think about that. And so a big part of getting ready for that negotiation is that self-assessment of how you are on these skills, your years of experience, your education level. Let me just say, if I'm seeing a lot of number 7, if you need more certifications on your resume in addition to your education, check out the Baobab courses because some of the courses do have certifications and they're really good, especially some of the quantitative and analytical like advanced Excel and Python, and check those out. They're wonderful things to add to your resume. Give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up if you have certifications from the Baobab courses. Give me a thumbs up if you have participated in those. Thank you so much, Samuel. Thank you. All right, a thumbs up. Thank you so much, Ellen. They're really good. They're really, really good. And if you need help identifying which ones, Angela will put into chat some of the resources for how to navigate those courses. Thank you so much. So some recommendations for a successful negotiation. Number 1, negotiate only after you have an official offer. There's just this terrible story from where I used to teach of a woman. She negotiated before she had the official offer and she screwed it up and she lost. They didn't hire her. They were so turned off by how she did it. So negotiate only after you have an official offer. Good. Joseph wants the link. Angela will send that. Right? Only after you have that offer. And if someone asks you to, if they ask you like, oh, what salary do you expect? Especially later in the interview process, you can always say something like, I'm sure that what you're offering will be commensurate with, I'm sure the benefit package and the salary will be commensurate with industry standards, right? That's a nice way to put it, of saying, I know that what you're offering will be in line with what other companies in your industry are offering. Good. So next, understand the market and the industry standards. Conduct research on salary surveys, industry reports, professional networks. Join LinkedIn. LinkedIn, you can get great information there. Identify shifts in demand for specific roles and technological advancements, especially with AI. It's really changing our workforce a lot. You're going to adjust for currency and taxes, especially if you're in a new country and are not familiar with it. Set realistic but ambitious goals. And if you are negotiating, anticipate counteroffers and resistance, right? Anticipate how they might respond and how you will respond. And my other advice for you is to practice. Like it never feels comfortable negotiating, especially something as important as your salary. So like try to practice in any situation that you can. Like if you go to a coffee shop, try to negotiate getting a lower price or getting an extra shot in your coffee for free, or getting like any situation where you're dealing kind of with the public or a service. Practice negotiating to see how you can hone your skills in it. Give me a thumbs up if you guys commit to doing that. You'll be shocked. You'll be shocked at you'll be shocked at how easy it is, right? You'll be shocked at how easy, right? Exactly, 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 right? You negotiate so much in your local markets, but your jobs, right? So it's really good to do that. So that kind of summarizes our main tips for this one. So I'd like to hand the floor over to our two guests, our voices from the field. We're going to start with Dorcas, and I put a little treasure chest beside her because it's such a treasure to be able to hear from someone what they experienced. And we're inviting Dorcas because she had an unusual experience where in a job, she was in a job and she was in a position to negotiate her value, to recognize that her value was not being valued, and she stood up for herself, working in a foreign country in a really male dominated society, and she had the courage to do that. And so we thought her story was really, really important to share. So I'd like to hand the floor over to her.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me over, Elizabeth and Angela. I'm happy to share my experience and my story. Like Elizabeth shared, I am an aerospace engineer with 5 years of work experience, working for two of the top aviation companies in Canada. I worked as an engineering specialist and analyst. And my education background is I have a bachelor's in mechanical engineering and a master's in aerospace. So I'm happy to be here.
Excellent. So to start off, Dorcas, so you're working there. What was the sign? What was the thing that happened that made you realize, wow, something's not quite right here?
So for me, what happened was I was working as an engineering specialist in this company. It's an aviation company that makes flight simulators and they train pilots. And for me, what sparked that something wasn't wrong was when I was being measured on different performance metrics. So, for example, companies usually have a standard benchmark and metrics on which they measure performance for all employees. But for me, what ticked that something was wrong here was when I was being measured on different things. And when I was having conversations over lunch with my colleagues, they weren't experiencing what I was experiencing. So, for example, they didn't need to have OKRs. OKRs are objectives and key results that employers give to people, and a manager or an employee would give you objectives, and you have to have key results that match those objectives. And when I was chatting with my colleagues, they didn't have that. So it started raising it started ringing alarms for me of, oh, something is not right here. My performance is being measured on different metrics that my other colleagues don't have to live up to or work towards to.
Yeah. And companies, so and human HR policies, they have to be consistent in how they're evaluating everyone, or else it's discrimination and it's not
Yes.
fair and it's wrong.
Yes.
So that was just great that you realized that. And so realizing that, what steps did you take? Once you realized that, what are the important steps you took to start to address it?
So the steps that I took, it's a two-tier process. When I realized that I was being measured on different performance metrics, I reached out to, because this person was a new manager that I'd got. He had been my manager for only 2 months. I'd worked in this role for up to a year at that point. When I got this manager, and my previous manager had been promoted to a different role. So I reached out to her to see if what my current manager was, I needed to get, because she was my mentor, she was my support system or internally, all the projects that I'd worked on were given to me by her, and I'd done excellent work on these projects. So for my mentor to actually, for my current manager to actually come and tell me, oh, it's a different story, I needed to hear from my other manager. And that is the process that I went to. I reached out to her and she told me, hey, Dorcas, your hard work and dedication, you are a very great employee. This is not right. I would like for you to stand up for yourself, but I want you to be respectful about it. I encourage you to go and talk to HR, but be respectful about it. And for me, that gave me the courage to actually go to HR and approach HR. So the first step was like have internal support. And then the second step was go to HR, follow company protocol, because every company has its own policies. The policies of the company were everything, because human resource, they're there to manage us, the human resources. So I reached out to HR and we had a conversation. And then HR, it was beyond HR's kind of, it was beyond her power level, if I should say, and she escalated it to the director of the department. And when we escalated it to the director of the department, she said that was it. She did her own research. We met with her. She said she would go back and do her own research, and she did her own research, and she found out that it wasn't right. So she struck down all the performance metrics and all the OKRs and the PIP that my manager wanted to give me. She struck everything down. So that is the first stage of the, because it's two-tier, that is internally, you definitely need to have internal support, but you also need to go to HR and follow company protocol. Yeah, the other, because it's two-tier, it's broken into 5 steps. The other second one is you need to be able to look out for your mental health, because because I'm in engineering, it's a largely male-dominated field, and it's very difficult as a Black woman coming from Africa. I don't understand the culture of this place. It was very difficult for me to navigate this situation. So I needed to look out for my mental health. Really, if you need to see a psychologist, if you need to see a social worker, because it can be a very mentally exhausting thing to do. So definitely get the mental health support you need. And then the other thing that I would say is consider your legal options, like see what that might mean for you. So for example, for me, I eventually needed to leave the company, but I didn't know that, you know, in North America, you can be paid, you can stay on company payroll even after you've left the company, which is called severance. So I didn't know that, but when I consulted a legal expert, they told me, hey, we can negotiate a severance package for you to leave and preserve your mental health. So I left with a good severance package because I was able to consult with an legal expert. Then the other third thing is, if you eventually decide to leave, for me, the first 2 steps of having internal support and HR, those were great. And I did have internal support, but my manager was relentless and he didn't give up. So if you need to leave and the first 2 steps have not worked for you, make sure that the internal support you have, you're still in contact with and you have a reference. So for me, that is the last thing that I did, because you're planning, your professional career is not ending here. So you need to make sure that you have people that are going to vouch for your work and say, this person we worked with, they're diligent, they're dedicated, they're hardworking, and people who can speak to your work. You need to have that in place. So I think those are the 5 steps. It's 2-tier. The first, I'll summarize. Make sure that you have internal support, follow company protocol, because it's a very mentally exhausting thing. Make sure you have all the mental health support you need, and just consider your legal options and what you can do, and then make sure you have a reference in case you need to leave that place of work. Yeah.
Good. So it's interesting because you followed all of the necessary protocols internally, and I think what's important for people to see in her story is that she was getting confirmation that she was doing the right thing. She got confirmation internally from her mentor. She got confirmation from HR. And the fact that also when she decided to leave, the fact that she got severance pay was sort of acknowledgement of the company of saying, yeah, you're right. You know, and that's why we're giving you this this compensation. And so even though I think what's also interesting, Dorcas, with your experience is that as much as you knew you were doing the right thing, standing up for yourself, it was still stressful. And you had to take care of your mental health, and you had to do an assessment of, what's going to work for me in the short term and the long term. And I think that took an enormous amount of courage and
Yes.
savvy to figure it out, being a foreigner in a foreign country and understanding, oh, the rules are a little different here, and here are the rules, and I'm going to follow them, and I'm going to make them work for me.
Exactly. And also I'll just share a little bit, like you shared, the research that had been done for Kenya, for example. I'm from East Africa, and usually I'm Ugandan, and usually women in Uganda are told to be calm, be polite, don't be loud, don't shout, don't be forthgoing, we are told to just keep it down. So for me, it was very mentally exhausting, given that this is the culture that I'm coming from. I'm essentially not told to stand up for myself. We are very indirect. So, and now I'm in a culture that is like Elizabeth shared, it's normal to negotiate your salary. It's really normal to negotiate your value in companies here. So I needed to learn that on the go. And I'm so grateful that Angela is my friend. I had the support of Angela. I had a community of support, but it still wasn't easy. And I needed to really seek mental health support. So absolutely. And I agree with what Elizabeth said. It's not an easy thing.
Yeah. So nice to have you as a role model, to know that you can be successful at it. And you know what an experience. Wow. We are going to have an opportunity for Q&A after both of our guests, but thank you so much, Dorcas. We're going to switch now for Angela, and Angela is going to share with us her experience with negotiating her value. And I'm going to just hand the floor over to her. I'm going to let her set it up and share with you what happened.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for having me. I'm usually in the background, but to be here today sharing my own story. And thank you, Dorcas, for sharing such a unique perspective around negotiating your value. Specifically for me, I'll be sharing, I have seen questions in the chat around, what about startup companies? What about in Africa? Let me bring you some context. So I was working for a Ugandan startup company. This is African context, right? And when I got hired to this company, I had a conversation with the CEO of the company who told me I would be paid a certain amount of money as monthly compensation salary. And I was so excited about it because at the time when that conversation happened, I was still in school. So when I graduated, I moved back to Uganda, and very excited to get started with my job. And here I was being told by the local country director of the startup company in Uganda that my salary that I had negotiated for previously, I actually didn't do much negotiation at the time. It was just an offer I was excited to receive. When I moved back to Uganda, I was told, listen, you can't be paid that much. Because even the people who have been in this company longer than you don't receive that kind of money. So who are you to even ask for the amount of money you're asking for? I wasn't happy, of course, because at that point I had an expectation that I would be paid a certain amount of money. So I wasn't happy. And here's what happened. I didn't reject the offer. that I was given, because anyway, I didn't have any other job anywhere. So I had to take the first offer that I received. But I was very adamant about continuing the conversation with the boss about what could potentially happen. Yes, I understood that I hadn't worked for the company for that long. I was straight from school, but I understood what I was bringing to the table. Value, right? We are discussing today. I was bringing value to the company because I knew my worth. I knew what I was going to do for the company, and I knew I could do it very well. So here's what I did. I sat down with the director and I told him that I will accept this offer. It's not the amount of money that I was expecting to receive. And if down the line, because I know that in Uganda and typically most African countries, when you get your first job, you're on a probation period. And that probation period usually lasts 3 months to 6 months. And for me, it was 3 months. And I told my manager, at the end of 3 months, if I can prove myself that I can actually get the job done and get the salary that I initially was expecting to receive, can we revisit that conversation? The country director was very much open. He's like, okay, I see where you're coming from. Let's see if this actually works out. Let's review this in 3 months. And if indeed you claim that you have all this value you're bringing to the company, like you're saying, at the time we can revisit the conversation. And indeed, at the end of the 3 months, I knew I had to keep track of everything that I did. I was so sure I was going to bring so much to this company because there was so much to be done. And indeed, at the end of the 3 months, there was no excuse whatsoever when the conversation came up. And the way I approached him was, I really was very confident in what I had done at the time for the company because I had recorded everything. And when I approached the conversation, I approached it from, this is what I'm able to give to the company, 1, 2, 3. This is what I have done, 1, 2, 3. And this is where I'm going, 1, 2, 3. And this is how much I'm expecting to receive. Can we have a conversation? And of course, the country director was very surprised because I don't think at the time when I had this conversation, anyone had stood up for themselves or actually approached him to have such a conversation. And I think I remember him telling me, how come no one has actually asked me to have these kinds of conversations in the company? And here you are being all direct and very confident in your ask. And I told him boldly that I'm really negotiating for myself. I don't know about other employees in this company, but I clearly know what I'm about, what I'm bringing to the table, and I know what I want. And I really want to go back to the salary that I was earlier promised by the country director. And so it was interesting to see how open-minded he was to listen to me, and with facts that I had in place for how much I could bring to the table. It was not a difficult conversation. In fact, it was just shocking to him in a good way that I actually followed through with the conversation. And indeed, I got my salary that I wanted. So that was my experience. And I can tell you, yes, typically African companies, room for negotiation is not as open. But like we said, Elizabeth shared earlier in her presentation, there is always room to negotiate. Once you get the first offer, don't take it because you're always going to get the lowest when it comes to salary offers for your job. When you get an offer, it's not the best, it's the bare minimum. And so it's up to you, the employee, to actually go a step further and say, hey, I see that you gave me the salary. How about ABC? And because of ABC, I think I should be given this much for my job. So you should know the market trends, know what you're bringing to the table in your negotiation, because it's not about, I feel I'm worth this. Why should you be given how much you're asking for? There should be some kind of evidence for that. So that would be my experience. And I recently just got a job and I went through the same process. And this is US. Outside Uganda, same concept. When I got offered the job, I was given an offer and I could have taken it, but I knew you don't take the first offer. You go ahead and have the conversation with the company and tell them, I appreciate you giving me this offer, but how about a different offer with reasoning behind why you're asking for that much? So yeah, that would be my experience when it came to salary negotiation, and I hope it helps anyone out there thinking about doing the negotiation.
I think what's also like significant for both you and Dorcas is that you both tracked your performance. Dorcas didn't say this, but she kept careful track of all of her email communications, all of her performance, everything she did. Angela did too. She knew she had this 3 month, tracked everything she did. So when that conversation came, both of them had the data to back up exactly what they were saying. And I think that was really powerful. And I think the other thing that both of you share in common is that you both knew there were protocols to support you, right? You knew there was a 3 month period, and she knew that HR has policies and they have to be applied equally to everyone. And so those seem like two really important success, key success factors of, understanding what the rules are, tracking your performance, doing your best, and know that you are performing to the standards that the company is expecting. So I'd like to, with our participants, I would love to open up the floor for questions. We have questions in the chat, and let's see, let me pull this one up. So I don't know if maybe we'll start with the questions that are in the Q&A. First, we have a question from Rode Lovo, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. What would be your comment to a situation where HR has to stop shortlisting candidates from a particular country because the organization is oversubscribed with employees from that country already, yet there's not? Oh my God, that's a difficult situation. That sounds like that maybe, I don't know what to do about, I don't know what to say about that one. I don't know. I know in the US it's very political. It's about your H-1 visas and your H-1B visas and which countries are getting them. And I don't know. Angela, do you have any thoughts on this one?
I mean, this one is a tough one. It sounds like a very internal issue with the company.
Yeah.
And I would probably say, do you know anyone from that company that could potentially speak on your behalf? Because sometimes it's really not about how great you are. It's about who can actually vouch for your character, who can vouch for the value that you're bringing to the table. So do you know anyone in this company that could potentially speak on your behalf? I would probably think about going it that way, like
Yeah.
talking to someone. It sounds like an internal issue.
It relates to our next question, which is about is it compulsory to get a mentor to guide us? It's always good to have a mentor if you can. Maybe can I ask you guys maybe if you can share like how you got your mentors? Who wants to start? Dorcas?
Okay, I'll go for that. I think you need to be proactive when you want to find a mentor. So when you go to an organization or wherever, whatever space you be in, as a mentee, I'm a mentee currently, and I've seen the value of mentorship. But you need to be proactive about it. If you see someone doing something that you'd like to do, then approach them and introduce yourself and tell them what kind of mentorship you would be in, and if they even have the capacity to mentor you. I find that a lot of people are actually willing to mentor. They're willing to do that, but it's up to you to be proactive and like reach out, and because they're busy too, and they have they're able and willing to do this, but you need to be proactive from the mentee side to seek this mentorship. That is what I found.
Anything to add, Angela?
Yeah, I mean, outside what Dorcas has shared, very key, that starts the relationship, proactivity, and being interested in the person that you think could be a mentor to you. In addition to that, I would say be interested in their life. So, in my opinion, the mentor that I got at the job that I worked in Uganda was someone that I went to school with. 10 years, they attended my college 10 years before me. So that was a relationship for me to connect on that level, that they had attended my school. But two, I was keen on understanding what are they interested in outside work. Do they have kids? Am I interested in their kids? Trying to understand, okay, if I'm going to seek for mentorship, be direct about, this is the area I'm struggling with, and I would really appreciate some help. Again, it's going to come back to confidence and boldness, because I know this is not something that a lot of us do back home, but we should, because it's the only thing that is going to separate you from everybody else, being able to speak for yourself and recognizing, these are the things that I'm struggling with or I need help with, and I have found someone, I see someone who could potentially help me, and having the boldness and courage to approach them in a respectful fashion and intelligently have a conversation with them about your interests of them being a mentor. More often than not, people are very open to do it. So you just have to put yourself out there.
Very true. Very true. You know, and at a personal level, I was at a family lunch, and there were young women who were just graduated from college, looking for work, starting their careers. And I was amazed that none of them asked any of the elder people at the table how we managed that transition. And it shocked me. How they, you know, like, even look at all the resources available to you, not just in work and your friends, but you may find there are people around you that have incredible wisdom and experience, and you just maybe don't recognize them. But we have another question from Foster. I don't know how to pronounce it. Nine, I think. There was no legal backing when her manager agreed to pay her expected salary. Very true. Now, assuming after your probation period, your manager decided he wouldn't pay you, what would you have done?
I'm glad it didn't happen. But that would have been a bummer for sure. I would say that more often than not, it is a professional setting, and as a manager, you really want to be truthful, at least to your employees. And if you don't if you don't stick to the things you say, then it really speaks about your character as a leader.
Yeah.
So if at the end of if we have that conversation and there's a verbal agreement, because again, legal usually is not paper. Verbal agreements are literally, they take effect, though you have to really prove yourself so much for that to be, verified. But verbal agreements are actually a thing at the workplace. And I just trusted that he was going to do the right thing. But if he had not, I guess I would, one, look for another job, and because it would definitely speak to this person's character if they come back around and change their word. If they had said one thing earlier on and now they're not accepting to that, I would definitely look for another job and not give them a good review as a company, that this person definitely is not a person of their word and I don't think you should work for them. I would be that person, and find another job, honestly.
Yeah, interesting.
You don't have to be tied to any employer.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
always open to go elsewhere. So definitely start looking for something else if they are not keeping their word.
yeah. Thank you. We have another question. What are some metrics that you use to measure your performance? Maybe Dorcas is going to answer.
Yeah, I'll go for that. So I did keep an Excel sheet of all the projects that I worked on. So in every, we had maybe quarterly or annually, it depends on how the performance reviews happen in the company you're in, but I would recommend keep an Excel sheet and keep projects and key tasks that you've worked on, things that you've accomplished of, I was able to work on this project on Airbus, and with this, these are some of the key tasks that I worked on. I was able to do this and this and this. And then every week, for me, what I usually do every Friday, I have okay, what are some of the major things that I've worked on this week? Can I add them to my Excel sheet? And this is very fundamental in negotiating your value and promotions. So at this company, I was there for 3 years, but when I started out in a different role. And because I had kept track of all the things that I'd worked on, I was able to have a conversation with my manager of, I've been able to do this and this and this. And he himself, the manager that I had at that time, actually helped me get promoted. So I was promoted to a different role because it helps you show the value that you have to the company, and numbers don't lie. Like, definitely try to make sure that you can put a numerical value to the kind of value that you're bringing to the company. And for me, in this case, it was the number of projects and the number of the key tasks that I was able to do.
I'm going to jump in and offer another suggestion, and I can share. I have actually an Excel spreadsheet that does it. I would also recommend tracking your time, not just your projects and your accomplishments, but tracking your time. How many hours per week are you working on this? How many hours per week are you working on this? Even for myself, when I started in my entrepreneurial phase of my career, it was really helpful to measure my productivity of how was I spending my time. So that's another suggestion. How did you do it, Angela?
I think keeping track of the things like Dorcas mentioned, I knew for sure, I think there were certain milestones that I had made down the line in my work, and I took record of that. But it was not even like a matter of nobody saw. It was very clear that this person is doing an excellent job at their work, because your ethics speak for yourself ultimately. How often do you show up at work? Do you show up happy? Do you show up mad? Do you show up on time? Do you leave early? Do you leave later? Are you quick to jump on things? Do you take initiative in your workplace? Because some of these things are actually not spoken or written anywhere, but people are watching you. And at the end of the day, when you come fronting a negotiation discussion with your manager, they're going to look back on the things they've observed you do. If you're a client facing person, are you the kind of person that when they talk to you, they never want to see anyone? Or when they talk to you, they're actually recommending about how great of a service you give them. So some of these things are unspoken, and you have to do your part in showing up to your job and doing the best you can.
Thank you so much. So true. We have a question from Patricia, and you guys can also check out the questions in the Q&A. We just have a couple minutes left.
Yeah.
I think counter offers, you do your research.
Yep.
And you figure out what's realistic in the market, and so you can evaluate it. How much is too much to ask? You again do your research. Find out what the trends are. Do your research with that one. We're not gonna do how do you negotiate? From Shola, again, do your research, find out what the market bears. When they ask, how do you negotiate your value when pricing your offering to clients? Same thing. Find out what is realistic. What happens in case you find yourself where you've graduated and your skill sets do not match industry standards? You got to skill up, right? Got to skill up. You got to stay sharp with your skills. And Angela put the Baobab list there, especially with AI. Things are changing, so you have to keep your skill set up. Follow the Baobab webinars. There's so many offerings that help you to keep you aware of what are the trends and how do you keep your skills up, right, Angela?
Yeah, for sure.
Could salary negotiations be different on the remote workplace? I think that's part of it's not just salary, it's what do you want your working conditions to be? Of saying, yeah, I want to work from home twice a week. I think, right? I know so many people, both, you folks, my husband, they're like, no, we want to work from home twice a week or 3 times a week. It saves in gas, it saves in transportation time. Those of you who live in places that have terrible traffic, right? It's a big deal. And what's your advice? Negotiating your value in the African context. What do you guys have for that? I'll let you guys answer that.
My advice, I mean, having worked on continents, for sure, I would say how you show up to these interviews or these conversations really determines how people are going to take you. So typically you're a female in Uganda, and I'll use Uganda as an example. You're a female and you show up in an interview, but you're meek. You're literally you're literally getting lost in the chair that you're seated in an interview. Immediately, whatever they are gonna say is going to be noise to you. But if you stand up, and this is something that Elizabeth has definitely taught me, is your posture when you're speaking to people, right? Look them in the eye when you're answering questions. Be bold, be confident. And when the conversation comes up around salary negotiation, you're not actually saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'll take whatever you give me." You failed immediately, because that's a typical answer that a lot of people would give. But ask them, what's your range? I'm sure as a company you have a salary range for this position. I would like to hear it, and I'm sure we can come to a mutual agreement. And when you throw that question back to them, there's no way they're going to say, "Oh, please just tell us what you want." No, 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 no. Let's have a discussion. It's a dialogue here. How much are you expecting to get for this job? Oh, I'm sure it's a commendable remuneration that the company is giving. I would like to hear the range that the company is offering, and they'll give you a range. And then from there, you tell them, "Oh, and shoot for the highest one." If they tell you between 70 and $80,000 for a year, shoot for 80K, because who knows, maybe they can offer that. But with that, you better believe they are going to watch every move you make. You have to make sure that whatever you're promising, you can offer. Because a lot of us go in and lie on our resumes, lie about the things we can do. We get to the job and we are definitely struggling to get the job done. So as you're promising things to your employer in your conversations, initial conversations, when you're negotiating for your salary, make sure that whatever you're telling them you can do. Because if they're going to give you money, they have to track their return on investment that they're giving to you. So just be bold, be confident. It's easier said than done, but you have to practice, look people in the eye and tell them, "I'm worth this." And when you do that, you're going to be respected so much, because it's not a daily occurrence that people do.
So true, such words of wisdom. I think we're just about at the end of our hour. So Uwama Horo Giselle asks about seeking a mentor. So Baobab and MasterCard Foundation, they have these wonderful competitions where if you win, you might get me as your mentor, right? Right. And there are other competitions too. And once like you get me to help you, I am your mentor for life. I will not forget you. You can reach out to me anytime. And so, and as Angela said, like a lot of people, we're busy, but if you have a clear goal of where you want help or how you want help, we'll do it. We'll make the time. We love doing it. It's very rewarding, and it's why we're in the fields that we're in. So, be bold. Find someone you like, who you want to be your mentor, and ask them, and have a plan for it. I think we're just about finished. I just want to thank you so much, Angela and Dorca. So helpful, so interesting. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences, and thank you all of you for coming. That was just such an interesting webinar. Thank you all so, so, so much. We look forward to seeing you next month. We'll have another exciting webinar planned, so keep your eye out for announcements from Angela about what we have planned.
Definitely. I hope
All
this
right.
is great. Go make money and negotiate your price.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Beyond the skies, you